What is going on? What? Eddie Jones has gone full Eddie. This is wild. I'm Tim. This is Egg Chasers. Let's talk about the Australia squad for the Rugby World Cup then that Eddie Jones has announced and I can't make sense of. As you will see, I'm not in my studio. I am I'm at a family house and I've just found a little corner. It looks like I'm in a dungeon. I'm all right. It's not a cry for help. I'm fine. Just sat by a window so you can actually see my face. But more importantly, have a look at the Australia squad that's there on the screen. That is bonkers. Isn't it wild? I reckon Eddie Jones saw the South Africa squad and went, "Oh, mate, there's nothing, mate. Check this out." And he just scribbled a load of names out and went, "No, I've got to be more wild than Razzie." And so you got to be fair. Eddie Jones and Razzie Erasmus, far and away the most entertaining coaches in world rugby. Yeah. And in the case of Eddie Jones, I'm delighted he is. Well, in case of both of them, I'm delighted they're there and part of the Rugby World Cup. In the case of Eddie Jones, I'm also glad he's not coaching my team. Although I will say, I was at the England squad announcement on Monday, as you will see from the videos in the channel. And one thing you can level at England and their announcement and maybe their squad wasn't very entertaining. It was a bit dull. And the actual squad itself was fairly predictable for the most part. But this is win or bust, high risk, high reward. And as a neutral, non-Australian, I love it. So let's get into it. Firstly, I think we've got to acknowledge no Michael Hooper. Real shame for him. Absolute legend of the game. And shame to see him not there. But now we get into the real big stories. In his stead, Will Skelton as captain. Didn't see that coming. I think that would make him, the fourth captain in 5 games. So chopping and changing all over the shop. But that's just getting started. Let's talk about the fly half position. Just one name there, Carter Gordon. But at least Carter Gordon has got loads of international experience. Oh, no, he hasn't. Wild. I mean, I know Ben Donaldson does play fly half and will be the number 2 fly half. He's down there as a utility player. But nonetheless, no Quade Cooper pickles my head. As I say, high risk, high reward. Carter Gordon is a very good player and clearly is a big part of the future of Australia going forward. But he has not been tested in a World Cup. It's a very different factor. And what makes this more amazing is that Eddie Jones, as England coach, played all the fly halves quite often at the same time. But he only sees fit to, I don't really need him. What, fly halves? I mean, hey, what Razzie Erasmus and Eddie Jones have forgotten about rugby is more than we will ever know. So maybe they know something about the way the game's going. Maybe fly halves are out in 2023 and beyond, and they're just ahead of the game. And people like Steve Borthwick with his 3 fly halves, he's the dinosaur. We're going to find out, aren't we? Will Skelton as captain, though, that's an interesting call. What's going on there? The only thing that it made me think of was the British and Irish Lions in 1997. Martin Johnson was made captain. There were more experienced captains and more experienced players that could have been captain, but they picked Martin Johnson, and looking back, you can say very wisely, they picked him because they wanted the South African captain to have to look up at the British and Irish Lions captain. Bearing in mind, South Africa, massive focus on the physical side of their game. So they picked Martin Johnson. I wonder if there's maybe something going on there. Just that, let's pick the most physically intimidating person we can to shake hands and do the toss. And you know, maybe that might have a factor. I mean, it could also just be that Will Skelton's played in France for a little while. He understands the culture. Maybe he's picked up some of the language, and that could be of use. But an interesting call, especially when you consider he doesn't appear to be an 80-minute player at the international level just now. If he can, though, translate his club form to that Australian jersey, he will be one of the best players at the Rugby World Cup and could be absolutely instrumental. So I'm not totally against him. Eddie Jones just going full Eddie and going, right, Will Skelton's my captain then. Oh, there's an alarm going off. Is that the Eddie's lost it alarm? No, I think it's my brother cooking some bacon. Anyway, I will carry on. So yeah, we talked about Carter Gordon. There's a few other names that I'm surprised are missing out. Pete Samu in the back row for Australia. I'm surprised about that one. Josh Kemeny in as a utility player, but clearly has got Pete Samu's spot. But there are real experienced players. This alarm, come on. What's going on? I don't have to like end the video and go and run outside, do I? I'm going to get rescued. There you go. I might get rescued by the fire engine in a few minutes while I'm doing the video. Hey, that'll get some good clicks. If not, and you want to help support the channel, hit that like button and leave your comments. What do you make of this squad? Reece Hodge, Tom Wright, Noah Lalicio, Quade Cooper. Real experience that's clearly not needed. And when you look at the profile of the players in this squad, the average age is 26. The average caps is 20. Or thereabouts. Bit of quick maths. And is Eddie Jones picking a squad for 2027? Or is he thinking long term? It doesn't seem like an Eddie Jones thing to do. And it doesn't seem like a smart thing to do. Because Australian rugby is in the doldrums. And it needs an uplift. It needs a boost right now. And so I think this is honestly, Eddie, there we go. I don't have to be rescued by the emergency services. This feels like Eddie Jones trying to do the best he can right now, as he should. And with that being the case, big calls. Big calls. The one name that I look at and I kind of go, not the one name, there's quite a few names I look at, but Vunivalu as an outside back, particularly when some of those names that I mentioned, Reece Hodge, Tom Wright, Lalicio, Quade Cooper, aren't in. So then to pick Vunivalu makes me scratch my head. What is he doing? Because based on what I've seen, Vunivalu is not as good as some of those options. And I just wonder if it's because he's an NRL player. Does Eddie Jones need to, or have the Australian Rugby Union said, no, you can't drop Vunivalu because otherwise that might prevent us from getting more NRL players in the future. All of that said, take a look out of the squad. All it needs is 15 guys or 23 guys to win on any given day. They're going to have their work cut out with Fiji, Georgia and Wales in their pool. But they can absolutely get out of the pool. I expect Australia to get out of the pool, and then I'm almost expecting them to be playing England in a quarter-final. And with that being the case, I have respect and I fear Australia, particularly at World Cup. They always seem to put it together, generally speaking, at World Cups. And when you look at Angus Bell and Taniela Tupou as likely starting props, and I'm pleased to see Taniela Tupou has shaken off any worry about his ribs and an injury. That's good. But they're potentially world-class props there. I do think they've got an issue at hooker. None of those names there at hooker fill me with a lot of confidence. I don't think they're of the required standard to go deep into a World Cup. Lock, they'll be fine. Back row, Green, isn't it? Fraser McRae, I think we're gonna learn a lot about him. He looks very promising. Big shoes to fill. Can he fill them? I'm just not convinced, other than Bobby V, that they're going to be good enough. Scrum half, fine. Centres, good. Fly half, potentially good, potentially disastrous. And if something happens to Carter Gordon, what on earth? Outside backs, they've got talent there, and you get 3 good guys on the field. Nwanga Nitawase, Korobete, Callaway. Looks good to me. So they're going to be dangerous, and I would respect them and fear them in a World Cup quarter-final. I just cannot see them coming through 7 games. Maybe, I keep coming back to it. Does Eddie Jones know that? Has he found peace with that and is just thinking beyond the World Cup? No, you don't think beyond the World Cup. The World Cup's here and the World Cup's now. You have a crack at it, full crack. Pick the best players you can to try and go and do a job. And if Eddie Jones thinks he's done that, well, maybe he knows something that certainly I don't, and maybe you don't as well. Leave your comments, let me know. I'll see you on the next video.